Uh, yeah, we'd love to hear a little bit more about DSNY and sort of the things that you're working on.
Okay, so basically, the announcement we're making today is about commercial containerization. So basically, on March 1st, all businesses will be required to use a bin with a secure lid to place out their garbage. There'll be 1 month warning period. Enforcement will start April 1st. You may get a warning or something like that, but it's just to let you know that we have a new rule in effect. Um, Bins can be kept inside in the yard or the alleyway. If there's no room, they can be kept on within the building line, and they can't extend more than 3 feet out into the sidewalk. Businesses should set out their trash 1 hour prior to closing, but or no earlier than 8 p.m. if they close after that. This rule does not apply to the metal, glass, plastic, or recycling paper. So you can continue to place out those items in clear plastic bags. It also doesn't apply to businesses who receive their garbage collection on a loading dock. Basically, any concerns with bins or containers, we ask the businesses to consult with their private carter and figure out what's best between them both. That works best for both of them. We are not providing any bins for that. Any other issues related to sanitation, I'll also be glad to help people out with. They can reach me at our customer service unit at 212-291-1220. I'll repeat that or put it in the chat if you'd like as well.
What was the last one? It was 212-291.
1220. So that's our customer service unit. I'm there. I work there. I'm not there every day. I might be out of the office sometimes, but there is always someone there, to answer that handles sanitation related issues. That we reach out directly to the districts as well as the higher up. So it's we cut some red tape and do some shortcuts, and we do our best to get stuff done quickly.
So this is just commercial institutions.
Yes, this is commercial containerization.
And so you said March 1st, and then enforcement's going to start mid-April.
April 1st. It'll be 1 month.
April 1st. Okay. And if we see that certain businesses in the community are not, we have to wait till April 1st.
Well, you can. Listen. You can report them. We may go out there and speak to them. Maybe they don't know, or maybe they didn't hear. So to inform them might be better. And then starting April 1st, they'll know. Or even from that point going forward.
So you would suggest calling if because again we're community board members and
yes.
The community. So if we see a business that's not starting Friday, pretty much,
correct,
give maybe a week, and we don't see the containers, then we could file a 311 complaint, and then it'll go to you guys, and then you guys will go out and do an education.
Basically, yes.
Okay, good.
Michael, I'm so sorry. My computer froze, I think, right when you were explaining the main point of it. So commercial realtors will be required to put all of their trash in bins, basically. Yeah. They're not allowed to put plastic bags out as of this deadline?
Correct.
Unless it's the recyclables and the paper.
Correct, yes.
Okay. Closed container bins.
Yes. We want a bin with a sealed lid.
Mm-hmm. And that's only for the commercial businesses. It's not for residences or apartment buildings?
Correct. As of March 1st, it's only for commercial businesses.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
So, Michael, can I ask you some questions about composting?
I'll try my best to answer. Yeah, sure.
Okay. So I guess the first question is the orange bins. The orange bins.
The brown bins?
So, no, the orange bins.
Okay.
The ones where you're supposed to, that there are different parts of the city, right?
Okay, they're like an app where you basically unlock it, those?
Correct. Okay. I'm going to share my screen so I can show you what I'm talking about. You see these things? These are orange bins.
Okay.
You see
Yes.
Can you see my screen?
Correct, yes.
Okay. So we don't have any in CB6.
Okay.
How do we get them in CB6?
That's a good question. So I could try to find out for you. I don't know the exact answer. I could reach out to, I don't know if it's a district level thing where they have to get approval, or even higher than that. Maybe it's like a collection office thing. But I could definitely find out for you. If you want to reach out to me, write me an email. I could definitely find that answer out for you.
Yeah, because again, we can use them.
Yeah.
And I'm sure as you're aware, community composting, the mayor and commissioner decided to defund it for this up to this year. The only reason it still exists is because there was a private donation, which, by the way, we just found out. We thought it was going to last to June 30th. I just found out the Grow NYC may run out of money even before that. And then the mayor hasn't put it back in the budget. So that's why, again, having orange bins would be useful in our neighborhood as at least to begin to fill the gap. And again, the other part about, we know that curbside composting, so I just want to be clear, because there seems to be some confusion. Curbside composting in Queens is now mandatory, correct?
Right. Queens and Brooklyn is mandatory.
It's mandatory, okay. But enforcement's not going to start until 2015?
I think once everyone is opted in 5 borough-wise.
Right. So basically, if buildings are not complying, nothing we can do.
I mean, we could, again, you could let us know. We could try to speak with them. They are supposed, what is mandatory is yard waste. So that is something that is mandatory.
Okay. But what about food scraps? Is that mandatory too?
Not yet. No, not yet. No.
Okay, so food scraps are not mandatory yet.
Correct.
When are they going to be mandatory? When it's rolled out in all 5 boroughs?
Yes.
Because I have an email from Sanitation indicating that it is mandatory. I can share it with you.
If you want to forward that email to me, I'll take a look.
So what's your
it's my first initial last name at DS. You know what? I'll put this information in the chat. Does that work?
Yeah, the chat should work.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'll email you because I know that's why I'm saying there's some confusion, because I actually have something from Sanitation from 2 months ago claiming that food waste as well as yard waste is mandatory in Queens and Brooklyn, but now you're saying it's only yard waste. So I can show you what I got from Sanitation. I can share it with you, and then if you could pass it.
I had previously heard only yard waste is mandatory as well.
Right, but again, I can share with you something that I got from Sanitation 2 months ago that said both food waste and yard waste.
All right. I mean, I'll take a look. I'm not disputing that. Maybe I don't know. Let me look at it first, and then we'll.
Yeah. Okay. So I have thank you. I have your email. I'll share with you what I found. I mean, it was circulated in a group that I'm in, so I'll try to get that. I'll share that with you, and if you can clarify if that's accurate or that's changed, because we know sometimes things change.
Yes.
If it's just yard waste, how are they enforcing? Are they enforcing it with the gardening businesses that service the apartment buildings?
What do you mean the gardening businesses?
So I don't think I'm calling it right. Like, we have a company that services our building and does all of the landscaping and the cleanup.
Oh, so that'd be a private carter. So that's they take care of their own garbage.
They just take care of it,
Yeah,
but that's inclusive. Like, it's if they're a Queens company, then they're required to compost as well. Like all of their.
I would have to double check on if businesses are required. I would assume so, but again, don't quote me on that. It may depend on a lot of things. Maybe some like you said, say they're servicing Queens, but they're in a different borough. It's hard to say exactly, but I could find out for you.
Right. So Michael, we one of the other hats that I wear is I'm on the Forest Hills Green Team. We run a weekly food scrap drop-off site,
Okay.
and I can tell you we're surrounded. We run it by Common Point, Queens, the Central Queens Y, and I can tell you that most of the people who come live in buildings, and there's been zero.
Yeah.
Almost zero. So part of that, and I'll tell you what happened in my building. So when we first got the brown bin, when it was first rolled out, they hid it. I told them, you got the brown bin. I reached out to Sanitation, and they hid it. So about a week and a half ago, they put it out without any instruction.
Okay.
So I emailed my board and I basically said, hey, don't you think you should tell people what this brown bin is for? No response.
So, I mean, we got a
tremendous need for education. That's the point.
We have to hope the supers are that they want to do it and participate. That helps out a lot, especially in multi-unit buildings. because there's a lot of people who could be food scrapping that we we might be wasting that organics.
Right. So does sanitation have any availability so that we could tell the folks that come to our site, and even my building, I don't know if they'll be interested, but we can tell folks, hey, reach out to sanitation, they'll come and they'll educate the board.
I'm not sure if that's a possibility now. You can make a request. We do have event requests on our website where, like, again, you can request education as well. You could reach out to me as well. I can forward it to our community affairs and see if we can do that. I know we did send out a lot of flyers and a lot of information prior to the October start. So no, I'm sorry, Brooklyn was October start, but prior to the October start for Queens. So
Okay, well, thank you.
all right.
Okay, does anyone else have any questions? Because mine were all answered.
I just had a question unrelated to composting or the bins. In terms of like sidewalk cleaning and cleanliness of the neighborhood, are there any initiatives from DSNY, or is it basically like if somebody puts in 311 tickets, then cleanup will take place? Because you just see a lot of garbage on the sidewalks and the
Well,
streets.
businesses and property owners are required to clean their property lines up to 18 inches in the street. There's a lot of streets in New York City. It would probably be nearly impossible to cover them all. That's why we need the help of the residential owners as well as the business owners. If you go on our website, there's a thing called routing hours where we go around specifically looking at those violations. So if a business or a resident is not in coordination with that, we would go out and issue a summons for that. So hopefully they would go cleaning that area from that point forward. There will be if it's a mixed use building, it'll be 4 hours per day. If it's just residential, it'll be 2 hours, and just business, just commercial, it'll be 2 hours.
And I don't know how to word this question. Is there any like threshold for like does it have to be excessive in order for there to be a violation, or
If if you have like maybe some wrappers out there or like paper or it's like just like minor litter, that could cause you to get a summons. As long as it's within 18 inches of the curb line.
thank you. And Kavish has his hand.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Is there gonna be a bin policy for residential as well?
As of right now, it's only just for commercial.
Okay, but do you have like a timeline or an idea of when there might be something of like that for residential?
No, I do not have a timeline for residential yet.
Okay.
No,
All right, thank you.
no problem.
Okay,
All right.
anything else?
Feel free to
Okay.
reach out to me again. Call me up, email me. I'm pretty available. I'll be glad to answer any questions. All right, guys.
All right, thanks so much.
Thank you
Thanks a
very
lot.
much for having me. I appreciate it. All right.
Thank you.
And
Have a
we're
great-
taping this, Michael, so we're gonna post the meeting so people get this information out that way too.
Awesome. Have a great night.
Good night.
Bye.
Okay. I think the only other thing we had on the agenda was to take a look at the community composting resolution. And now that Gina is here, we have a quorum.
Matt, do you
So-
have it so you
Yeah.
can share screen?
Yeah,
I
why don't I
can.
do
Put
that?
it up?
Can you share screen, Matt?
Yeah, why don't I do that here?
Yeah, share your screen so we can
Let-
look at it.
Hey, Gina.
Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, Gina.
Hi.
Okay. Okay, can you all see it?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so in a nutshell, this resolution is modeled after one from Manhattan, Community Board 1. supporting community composting. As Mark mentioned, the funding has been taken away from it and remains very in a very dangerous situation right now, where we're not sure if it's going to be continue to be funded. And so this resolution just empowers and says that we as a community board are in favor of the composting programs and that we would like to see it funded.
So again, this is community composting. This is not curbside composting. They're two different programs. And the feedback that we've been getting from the city is that they say composting is fully funded. Curbside composting, but as we just discussed, buildings aren't in compliance. They're not going to have to be in compliance for another year and a half. So if curbside composting shuts down, which is as of now, and then the mayor's next budget, he did not restore the funding. So starting July 1st, if the funding is not restored, then all the sites that you see, not only in our neighborhood, but all throughout the city, will be shutting down. So it's important to kind of get this out, I think.
Okay.
Mark, sorry, Matt. Question,
ahead.
the community composting sites, do they do the composting locally at their sites?
Okay, that's a great question, Katrina. So the way community composting works is that most of the sites are just food scrap drop-off sites, like what we run, Forest Hills Green Team. We don't do composting at the site, we collect them. But there are a number of community sites, both there are larger full-scale ones as well as smaller ones. So unfortunately, what's happening now is with the cuts, some of the larger ones have already been eliminated with curbside composting. And I mentioned the orange bins earlier. So the orange bins, what happens is the city is trying to do something called aerobic digestion, which basically turns the food scraps into methane, and supposedly it's recycled. There's a plant in Newton, by Newton Creek. They just opened it a few months ago. There's been some issues with it, and a lot of people involved in composting don't like this process, because one of the reasons we support composting is because when the food scraps are composted, they go back into the soil. This is going into methane, and there's some issue. Methane is a very dangerous gas that's created more climate change. So, but then I guess it's better than nothing, because one of the advantages of the community composting program is something like 1/3 of stuff that goes into sanitation that ultimately ends up in landfill is compostable. So that's why community composting is important. And again, if it's defunded, already, I think with this first go around, I know, like Queens Botanical Gardens, for example, we were working with them, Forest Hills Green Team, and they basically no longer work with us because they don't have capacity anymore.
Okay, so with that context and with this being up for a bit, I think we can then go into a vote. Does anyone else need any more time to read it? Okay. All those in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. All those opposed? All those abstaining? Okay. It is passed.
So Matt, are you going to be reporting this out next week at the meeting, or are you on the agenda for that?
Well, I'm going to send this over to
Yeah, ask
Christine
Heather and Christine.
Heather. Yeah.
You'll send it over, Matt?
Yep, I'll send over the resolution and my notes from this meeting.
And then I assume, since we have the meeting today, normally there's a time at the end for the like for minutes. I'm like having trouble with word finding, but I'm sure there'll be opportunity to speak at the end of the meeting, if I'm making any sense whatsoever.
At the general meeting?
Yeah, because
Yep.
we always do our summaries of our
Yeah,
meetings.
and I'll send, and I've been taking notes, so I'll send the minutes
Right.
over.
See, the issue now at the main meeting, if you notice, we used to have committee reports, but there's just so much else going on, we've eliminated committee reports. So I think you have to let Christine and Heather know
Yep.
to add this to the agenda, that the resolution passed, and that, we want to then see if we can get the whole community board to support it. And then once that, we could pass it on social media and we can put it out there. Just FYI, I spoke to somebody from CB9, the chair of CB9, a few days ago. That I met her. I shared the Manhattan one, and they're going to also be going through the same process, hopefully, that we're going through, and maybe we'll get CB9 to also endorse it. The more CBs that do, it helps.
Yep. Okay. Does anyone have anything else?
So Matt, do you want to talk about? Remember, we got that email about the slide show, and you want to talk about that as a future potential meeting topic?
Yeah, sure. So Daniel couldn't make it tonight because he's out of the country, but Daniel, who's a public member of this committee, had sent along a resource that is for mapping, where essentially anyone can put things into it, and it's like Google Maps mixed with Wikipedia kind of. And so if you know of, let's say, a community compost site, you could then put that into it yourself, and then utilizing this data source, people can then go around our area and see different things. So he will be presenting at our next meeting about that, and he has a very good presentation on that.
And there's something else I spoke to Heather about, and we were thinking about having it for the full community board, but given the full community board has been kind of busy, there's something called FloodNet, and I'll share that with you, with the committee. They did a presentation a few months ago. It's actually an online site where you can investigate to see what your flood risks are. And it's an interesting tool. Maybe, again, at a future meeting, we can have somebody from FloodNet come and present to the committee in terms of these are ways, these are areas. I mean, even by us, even though technically we're not by the water, we see what's happened during some of these storms where basically we're overloading. And we've had, unfortunately, one of the storms, we had people die because they were flooded out. So that could be another possible, presentation here at the committee.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely in, and I'll be following up with Christine about following up with DSNY about looking into an orange bin for the community board district, because I think having those would be very helpful in getting people into the mindset of composting. And it tends to only be the communities in Manhattan and in Western Queens and Brooklyn that actually have them. So,
I mean, the orange bins.
yep.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, maybe it'd be good. We can ask Christine Christine and Heather, the community board could send. I mean, I could email him too, but it's probably better coming from Heather and Christine
Yep.
that we do want the orange bins in the community, and how do we get them?
Yep. So I'll follow up on that.
That'll be great.
Okay.
Was there anything else anyone wanted to discuss or bring up? One thing, it's very random, but I don't think it's ever been brought up in the Environmental Protection Committee. But one of the big things I always read about in terms of lowering like CO2 and everything like that is tree planting. And I know it goes along a lot of times with like parks and beautification, but I feel like it should be incorporated into this committee as well, because it's like one of the easiest things that can be done to help with what's going on in terms of climate change. So I'm just making that comment. I don't know where to go from there.
Okay,
but I'm
so
making
I
that
can
comment.
actually respond to that. So there's something. Have people heard of participatory budgeting? Do people know what that is? No. Okay, so participatory budgeting, it's been around for a while. It kind of shut down during the pandemic, but now it's back. Okay, so basically, what participatory budgeting is, the council member at, let's see, right now, unfortunately, our CB6 now has 4 different council members. So Lynn Schulman, which is 29, for those of you who are still remain in Council District 29, Lynn Schulman has been doing participatory budgeting. She did a cycle last year, and she's doing another cycle this year. So what it is she dedicates $1 million of her capital funding. Capital funding is money that goes to tangible things versus expense funding, which is stuff, that pays for programmatic expenses. Capital is usually something that's worth more than $50,000, and that. So last cycle, there was a proposal that was passed that would allocate $100,000 to plant trees in CB6. So what's happening, again, putting on my Forest Hills Green Team hat, we've been speaking to the council member's office, because even though the money was allocated, it still takes a while to kind of get processed and go through parks. But sooner or later, and every time I speak to the council member's office, I ask, when are we going to start planting the trees? So it's coming down the pike, Patrina. I'll keep you in the loop, but hopefully, who knows when. We had talked about possibly planting some trees along Metropolitan Avenue, because that's a main business strip, and I think they lost a lot of trees during the various events that we've had here in the community. So we're thinking about looking. And by the way, just planting trees is harder than you think. It's not like, okay, there's an empty tree bed, we're just going to throw a tree down there. You have to know what the soil is like. There are only certain trees that go in certain areas, so it's complicated. Just like rain gardens are complicated, right? I know we've discussed in the past rain gardens. You just can't plop a rain garden down anywhere. Not to mention rain gardens happen to be very expensive. So similar idea with trees. You just can't put a tree in a pit and go, okay, that's good.
Yeah, I'd also like to point out that the Parks Department has done some of this work. So by my apartment on Austin Street and Austin Aaron Wright Playground, they've actually dug new tree pits and planted. So I'd be interested in talking with the Parks Committee about what was the process, or if there were any involvement from that committee with the Parks Department on that project.
Right. Yeah, right. That's right. Because technically, trees, even though they're in the street, trees are technically Parks Department responsibilities. It's like if you want to have a tree trimmed, it's Parks is supposed to come and trim the tree. You're not supposed to trim the tree yourself. That's because if you have to know what you're doing.
Well, thank you for all the information.